Good morning, everyone. I would like first to thank Ajman's University and Ms. Maya for inviting me to present a presentation about food safety on campus. And I would like also to thank each one of you for joining this meeting as well. And I hope to everyone enjoy. And let's start our presentation. Okay, so here are the few points that we're going to go through our presentation, starting with an overview of food safety, moving into the growth of microorganisms, and then how does food become contaminated, and finally ending with the key recommendations for food safety. So before we start, as you can see, here are some dishes of a variety of different kind of food items. I want to ask you a question. If you see such dishes in front of you right now, what's the first thing you do for checking its safety or to check its food safety? What do you do? Do you depend on your senses? Do you depend on a certain technique or measures? You can unmute yourself if you'd like to share your opinions.
I would say I'll check the temperature first and the smell.
Okay. Yes. Anyone else? Okay, we can proceed. Well, exactly, many of us might... Sorry? If anyone likes to participate? Yes?
Karim, we cannot hear you. Still cannot hear you.
Okay, now?
Okay.
Talking about the cross-contamination also, it will be food safety if before something is a chicken or something like that, a temperature also, all this food safety.
Okay. Anyone else like to share their opinion? Okay. So maybe many of us will rely on their own senses like taste, smell, just the appearance of a food to check whether this is good or not. Well, we cannot totally, completely, or rely or trust our senses to check its safety, because sometimes, for example, although it might tell us if the food is spoiled or not, but we cannot detect the pathogens or the microorganisms inside this food. So somehow maybe a plate would look very appealing and tasty and yummy to eat, but still it contains pathogens and it will be harmful for you and unsafe to eat. On the other hand, another plate could be maybe have an unpleasant smell, like for example, blue cheese, due to the presence of pathogens, but still it's safe to eat and it will not cause you any illness or disease. So we cannot 100% trust our senses in order to test for food safety. It needs more accurate or precise measures. Now, let's come to what is food safety or the definition of food safety. When we come to say safe food means that it's free of contaminants and it will not cause you any harm or illness. So it assures that all the measures are assuring that food is safe during all the production, all the process, yani from farm to fork, from the moment you receive the raw materials till the end product in which the consumer will receive. So it ensures that food safety is during the preparation, processing, storage, handling, and finally the end product. Now, okay. So as you can see in this picture, there are several unacceptable behaviors that you might face in any facility as food handlers. And you are all aware of course. So I'd like also someone to participate and give his or her opinion about what do you see wrong with this picture. Who would like to participate?
So first there's the smoking lady and
Yes.
the sneezing man and
Yeah, the
people
coughing guy.
eating.
And the guy with the beard as
Yes.
well and the tattoo.
Touching his wound.
Exactly.
Actually, all of
Yeah, it's all wrong. It's all the people doing something wrong.
Yeah, all are doing unacceptable behaviors. Okay. Anyone else would like to share? We see also a lady wearing jewelry and she's smoking as well, right? Which is also unacceptable. Yes, and someone is feeling unwell, stomach pain maybe.
And there's one guy eating
What
as well.
else?
One guy is eating.
Yes, he's eating. Yeah,
And one guy is like
and we can see someone.
rubbing his hands on his apron. He's not washing the hands.
Right.
Some of them not wearing
Exactly. True. Right. Okay, so let's proceed now. Thank you for your participation, everyone. Now, as we talk about what is food safety, we're going to move into the hazards of food safety. There are three categories of hazards. They are physical, chemical, and biological. So we'll go through rapidly on each hazard, starting with what is physical. Physical, they are any foreign materials that are present inside the food, whether naturally like the stems or the dirt of the fruits and vegetables. For example, if the fruits or vegetables, they are not well washed, they might contain some dirt, so they will be considered as a physical contaminant or a physical hazard. Or it could be accidentally added like hair, glass, plastic, metal. So they should be aware to wear a hairnet and in order not to become a physical hazard. The second one is chemical hazard. It's any harmful substances that are found in the food, whether naturally like mycotoxins found in mushrooms, or intentionally added like preservatives or additives. For example, it's okay to add some preservatives or additives to the food to prolong its shelf life. But sometimes if it exceeds its the limit or the acceptable limit or dose, it will become a chemical hazard. Or it can be unintentionally added, such as pesticides. And the final hazard is biological hazard, which are caused by the presence of microorganisms like bacteria, viruses, and parasites. Now, the following slides, we're going to see examples of some food that favors the growth of microorganisms, which are called perishable food, or they are called also potentially hazardous food. For example, everything like dairy, high in protein food items, high in carbohydrates, seafood also, as we see, baked potatoes could be also at risk of contamination. Raw sprouts and sprout seeds. Why raw sprouts? Because first of all, they are raw, which means they are not cooked or treated with temperature. And second, because maybe from the environment in which they grow in, it's warm and humid, so it will cause also bacterial contamination. We have sliced melons, for example. Everything that is cut, it will be subjected to air or oxygen, which is also a factor for bacterial contamination. And plus it's low in acid. Okay, so we're going to see these factors later on throughout the presentation. Now, once you see this slide, okay, there are a couple of questions for you to answer. It's okay not to answer everything perfectly. We are here to learn and to gain some knowledge. Okay, so now a few questions will appear on your screen.
Thank you, Suzy. So I'm going to run the questions in the form of a poll. The answer that you think is correct, please vote for it. We'll give you 1 more minute. We still have 5 persons who did not share their answer. 15 more seconds. This is excluding the trainer and me. All right. Suzy, can you please elaborate?
Yeah. Okay, so the first question, what are the food safety hazards? It's D, physical, chemical, and biological, as we said before. The second one is a scenario that talks about when you order a salad and you found a piece of glass, what kind of physical hazard, what kind of food hazard is physical hazard? Okay. So we can now proceed to the second part of our presentation. We talked about what's food safety, what are the hazards of food safety, and now we're going to talk about the growth of microorganisms. We're going to focus on foodborne illness and its types. Foodborne illness, as we all know, it's an infection or an illness that results from the ingestion of a common food. And when we say foodborne disease or illness outbreak, it's the occurrence of 2 or more cases of similar illness after eating a common food. For example, if you and your friends ordered pizza and you both experienced, for example, after a couple of minutes, vomiting, symptoms of stomach pain, then this is called a foodborne disease outbreak. And it can also occur in like a buffet, open buffets, or large gatherings in which they consume similar food. They might experience foodborne disease outbreaks if the food is contaminated. Now, we have many signs and symptoms of foodborne disease, but some are like vomiting, diarrhea, fever, dehydration, upset stomach, or pain stomach, depending on the type of pathogen found. And they usually occur directly onset, or they might take up to 36, 38 hours, and they usually last from 1 to 7 days. Now, the types, we have many types, like many pathogens, like, for example, we have botulism, we have Salmonella, Shigella, E. coli, hepatitis A virus, which affects the liver, and many others. In the following charts, you can see it's divided into different categories, like pathogen, signs and symptoms, incubation period, and the food involved. For example, if we take one example, Salmonella. Salmonella, if you consume contaminated poultry, meat, eggs, or anything infected with the feces of human or animal, which is infected by Salmonella, you will catch this foodborne illness. And you will have like abdominal pain, fever, chills, vomiting, and usually it occurs from 12 to 36 hours or from 6 to 72 hours, and so on. Now, who is at risk? Everyone is at risk. You, me, everyone is at risk, but there's a certain category of people who are at higher risk of getting this disease. Those who have weak immunity, who take medications, who have certain chronic diseases, pregnant women or lactating women, infants, young children, and older adults. Okay, so we are now back to this slide. We also have a few questions for you to answer.
Okay, less than 1 minute. So please hurry up in answering so that we can continue. Don't worry, I will not know who answered. It's anonymous. All right, let's end the poll. Suzy, all yours. I think Suzy got frozen. Hello, Suzy, are you there? Well, I will tell you the right answer. I think she has some connection issues. The right answer for number 1, all of the following are signs and symptoms of foodborne illness except kidney stones and stomach pain. All the others are signs and symptoms of foodborne illness. And the second one, who is the most vulnerable or at risk for foodborne illness? It's A, C, and D. Infants and older adults. Okay, hold on. Yes, Suzy, can you share your screen? You are still co-host. And this one, consider the following scenario. Suppose that you and your friends ordered coffee from a nearby coffee shop. Suddenly, you and your friends experienced similar symptoms, such as stomach pain. What do you call such a condition? The correct answer is foodborne illness outbreak, C. Okay.
Okay, can you see the screen now?
No, yeah, now we can, yes.
So we can proceed now with the growth of microorganisms. As we talked about, we have, and this FATOM, it stands for the factors that support the growth of microorganisms. There are 6 factors: food, acidity, time, temperature, oxygen, and moisture. So we're going to talk briefly about each factor, starting with, first of all, food. As we said, that everything high in carbs, high in protein, raw food, ready-to-eat food like salads, for example, sandwiches, smoked fish, smoked meat, everything that is already cooked and will not be subjected to further cooking is called ready-to-eat food. So all these kinds are subjected to contamination and at high risk of bacterial growth. Moving into the second one, which is acidity. We know the pH scale that ranges from 0 to 14. We know that 7 is neutral, 0 to 7 is acidic, 7 to 14 it's basic or alkaline. So we know that bacteria does not grow in acidic conditions. but it grows in low acid conditions. For example, fruits, vegetables, they are low acidic, like the sliced melon that we showed in the previous slides. So for example, if you want to do pickles at home, you should add certain natural preservatives in order to prolong its shelf life, like sugar, salt, vinegar. So vinegar is acidic, and this will preserve the pickles and will prevent its contamination. The third factor is time. Time is very important. It's really essential not to leave your food, whether cooked or prepared, to leave it on the counter for a long period of time in the room temperature, which is the danger zone. And we will talk about it later on, because more than 4 hours, more than 2 hours, it will cause the microorganisms in the food to produce toxins. Now, the temperature factor, it's very important while you cook food at the right temperature to achieve the internal temperature for each food item. Plus, when storing the food and serving the food, you should also consider the temperature factor. So here you can see a thermometer. As you can see, different range of temperature, starting from the freezer temperature, which is -18, and the refrigerator temperature, which is 4. Now, from 4 to 60, this is the danger zone. This is the most favorable condition for the bacteria to grow. And the most temperature is 37 degrees. And you can see that at 60, you can cook or reheat the ham. 63, everything like beef, steaks, roast. Higher temperature for the ground meats or egg dishes. Now, why ground meat or ground poultry needs higher temperature than a normal steak? Because once you cut the ground meat to smaller pieces, or the poultry into smaller pieces, the bacteria on the surface will transfer to the inside, and it will need higher temperature to be killed. As well, higher temperature is needed for reheating the leftovers, for example, because as we know that when you put the food in the fridge, it will not kill the microorganisms. It will stop its multiplication, but it will not kill. So when you take it again and you want to reheat it, you need higher temperature to assure that all the microorganisms are completely killed. Now, moving into the fifth factor, which is oxygen. We know that we have oxygen as we humans need it to survive. Also, bacteria needs oxygen to survive. So there are two types of bacteria called aerobic and anaerobic. Aerobic, which they need oxygen to grow and survive. Anaerobic, they grow in the absence of oxygen, and this is the case of canned products or vacuum packaged food, but this is not our case. We're talking about those who need oxygen. So we should be aware, in order to store the food in well-sealed containers, airtight containers, it will cause a barrier against the growth of any microorganisms. And finally, we have moisture. As oxygen is important, water is also important for the bacterial growth. The higher the water content in the food, for example, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, they have higher water content, so the high risk of contamination or bacterial growth. For example, if you have soft toast versus dry toast, which one do you think will be spoiled quickly, or it have a shorter shelf life?
The soft.
The soft, because it contains higher water content, right? Okay, so you cannot put it outside. You should store it inside the fridge so it will not get spoiled. Whereas the dry one, you can put it on the counter, you can put it in your cabinet, outside the fridge, it will not be spoiled quickly. The same case goes for fruits, dry fruits versus fresh fruit. Dry fruits also, you can store it outside, whereas the fresh, you should store it inside the fridge. So the dry fruits, unless you have certain conditions like humidity, high temperature, also in warm weathers, you should not put the dry fruits outside because they might be spoiled. So we're gonna have also some questions now.
Okay, we'll give 1 more minute. Okay. Do you need more time? We still have 4 persons who did not answer. Okay, let's end the poll. The first question, what does FATTOM stand for? Well, most of you answered the correct question, which is C. Food, acidity, time, temperature, oxygen, and moisture. The second question, which of the following favors the growth of microorganisms? The right answer is B, low acidity, warm temperature, and high water content. And the third question, what is the TDZ, temperature danger zone? Most of you answered it correctly, which is D, between 4 and 60 degrees Celsius. This is the danger zone, where bacteria and microorganisms grow rapidly. All right, back to you, Suzy.
Okay. Can you see the screen now?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So let's proceed. As we said, we talked about many factors that contribute to the growth of microorganisms, but we're also gonna talk about food become contaminated from food handlers. Food handlers, we should check their health status as the first point. So if you, as a food handler, have one of the following symptoms, for example, you should not come to work. In order to be, you should stay at home. And when you're healthy and well, you can come back to work. So if you have symptoms associated with the gastrointestinal tract, GI tract, for example, pancreatitis, liver disease, GERD, Crohn's disease, or any other diseases related, you should not come. If you have diarrhea, vomiting, or all of the signs and symptoms that we talked about, sore throat, any illness due to a certain pathogen like E. coli, Shigella, Salmonella, or if you have also a cut or a wound that is infected, it's draining, it's open, you should not come to work. Also, the poor personal hygiene, cleanliness, it's a very important factor to consider when it comes to the food handlers. So you should clean your hands or wash your hands appropriately before starting your work, before touching or handling ready-to-eat food that we talked about previously, eating or using the gloves. And using the gloves should be changed also frequently, okay? And also after using the bathroom, sneezing, handling raw food items, touching a cut, using a telephone, picking something from the floor. So all these behaviors, you should wash your hands properly. So what is the proper washing procedures? Of course, you are all aware of, and it should take about 20 seconds. Of course, the sink that you should wash your hands should be separate from the washing sink for the fruits and vegetables to prevent contamination. And if you can handle hot temperature, 38 degrees, it's preferable. And then you apply soap, and you should vigorously scrub your hands and arms for 10 to 15 seconds under your fingernails, between your fingers, and then you rinse thoroughly, and you use a single disposable tissue paper, and you close the faucet also using this tissue paper, unless it was on sensor. Now, as we talked about from the previous picture, what's wrong with this picture, about unacceptable behaviors, we're going to continue here as well, like scratching the scalp, running the fingers into your hair, touching your nose, touching your ear, touching a pimple or an open sore, wearing a dirty uniform. It's very important to clean your uniform and to change it frequently. Coughing or sneezing and spitting in the establishment, all these, they are unacceptable behaviors and you should be aware of not doing them. Now, it's very important to consider the point of separation during preparation, which means you should use different cutting boards with different colors to each food item. We have 7 different cutting boards, starting with the red one, it's for the raw meat and poultry. The yellow is for the cooked meat and poultry, whereas the blue one is for the seafood. The white is for bread and dairy products. The green is for the washed fruits and vegetables. The brown is for the unwashed root vegetables like carrots and potatoes. And finally, there is the purple one, which is used for everything that is free from, which means lactose-free, gluten-free. You use a separate kind of cutting board. Now, this is the final questions for you to answer.
Can I ask one question, please?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, Karim.
I want to ask about the danger zone. Danger zone, I take this training in Baladaya municipality, and danger zone from 5 to 64. Why here is different? And this for everywhere, even I take in Egypt also, I take everywhere this training from 5 to 64.
Okay, maybe different references.
Because you know already the temperature of a chiller, normal chiller, 0 to 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
The danger zone after 4 degrees should be from 5 till 64. This one I get before about this knowledge.
Yeah, there might be some different ranges that differs from one reference to another, but they are all similar numbers. In between this range, there should be to be aware not to put the food in this range. Yeah.
Let me add one thing. It differs if you are using the American system or the British system or the Australian system. So according to the American system, this is the danger zone. So
About American, this international, this food safety.
yeah, but there are some like slight differences between the systems in each country. Yes.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, so let's end this poll. Suzy, can you tell us the right answers?
Okay, so as you can see, the proper washing of your hands should be for 20 seconds. And the cutting boards, there are 7 cutting boards as we said before.
Okay.
Okay. So the final recommendations or key recommendations for food safety, 4 key recommendations in order to keep your food safe from bacteria. You should fight back. You should clean, separate, cook, and chill. Cook, clean, as we said, clean your hands for 20 seconds, properly clean everything, countertops, utensils, the cutting boards. And the second one is to separate, which means to prevent cross-contamination, you should use different cutting boards. Cooking, you should cook to the right internal temperature using a thermometer. And finally, chilling, you should put in the refrigerator, store them well. And of course, we have the point of thawing or defrosting the food, which we might have a later chance to talk about in other presentations. And as a take-home message, I'd like to say that food safety starts from you and me. So we should make food safety our top priority in order to ensure consumer satisfaction. Thank you. And thank you for joining and participating. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Suzy, and thank you everyone for joining in this important training. Do you have any questions?
I think it's clear.
Okay.
All clear.
All right, great. So you will be receiving shortly a link to a survey. And once you fill the survey, you would receive your certificate of training. And I wish you a pleasant day, and we'll meet again in other trainings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Suzy.
Bye.
Thank you, Suzy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.